Todd Ranck is back. It's Ask Mike and Todd here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. As we have another edition here on the Thursday show, it is Ask Mike and Todd here on the Sports Bash. Now, yesterday you left a little cliffhanger for us.
Yeah, I let you know that I was a little late in submitting those taxes. Although luckily for me, because of the pandemic, they've given a slight delay for everybody. But yeah, I had to do those online. Of course, I go through all the hot mess. Now the benefit is, I owe from the past, and some other people do as well, I'm sure. The good thing for me, 'cause some of them who don't know that story is, if you ever get on a game show, folks, you do have to pay taxes on the money that you win. So that was the lesson that I learned. But regardless, yeah, we got it done yesterday. I basically broke even, nothing great. So I got to go. I got to mail those off to the big boys today. So we'll see how it goes.
Ooh, I like that. I mean, so you finally broke down and paid those taxes.
No, what happened was, for those people who don't know out there, if you owe a chunk to the IRS, just a little side note for you in case you haven't done the research. You got to have a good relationship with the IRS, which I did. We had a nice agreement. Going for a few years. But at the end of 10 years, if you still owe for a particular year, Gill, it is a statute of limitations that the IRS, the federal IRS, cannot come after you for that money any longer. So it falls off a cliff. So if you owed in 2008, 2018, it will fall off a cliff. If you've been paying an installment agreement, $100 a month over the last 10 years, if you still owed for that particular year, it falls off a cliff and you no longer owe it. So, so that benefited me. I'll just say that it did benefit me at a certain point in the recent past.
All right. So you paid your taxes finally off those game shows. So they're done coming after you then.
They are. And we've always had a good relationship. I mean, I always give them a call. Check in with them.
I give them a call. You have a Zoom. Maybe you do a Zoom happy hour with them.
I was going to say, it's almost like family members. You call up every couple months, check in on them, see how the kids are doing.
Well, you know what? We did a Zoom happy hour the other night. All my guys that we live with in WV, when we lived down on Mason Street, we did a Zoom happy hour the other night. And I haven't seen some of them guys in years. And I said, you know what's the oddest thing? We're in our 40s now. And
right.
All of us have our hair still.
It's rare. It's
right,
rare.
That's what I said. You figure someone in your group of friends is the guy who just didn't have his hair, and he's the guy who gets the jokes that, when you going with the tooth or when you going with the piece, But we got nobody.
Now, let me ask you this. What was the overall look? I mean, some of them you hadn't seen in, 10 or 15 years, but you've talked to them.
We talk a lot still. I haven't seen some of them guys in person, man, in a long time. I mean, most people look the same. I mean, I'm probably the only one that gained probably 100 pounds. Everybody else looks exactly the same. Everybody else is looking solid except for the dudes. I mean, no one's lost a hair. Everyone's in solid shape still. I mean, I got to give them credit.
That's great. And everybody's scattered. I mean, we're mostly in the Northeast still, right?
Everybody lives pretty much exactly where they grew up. I don't think anybody moved or left or went anybody or had a crazy job or, everybody went back to where they lived and lives in the same area. In fact, my one buddy, Declan, he lives up in Bergen County. They're getting smoked by this coronavirus up there. They got like 15,000 cases just in Bergen County alone.
Wow.
So him and then my other buddy, Holst, he lives up in like the Toms River area. They're another area that's getting smoked by this thing. And then the other two guys live in Philly. So it was funny, but one of the guys, he wasn't on the original call. So I sent him the link and said, dude, jump into this Zoom video and, start, So he comes in and he's got, back in the day, you used to take pictures. You had to go get them developed. Well, he said he had over 1,000 pictures from our time in college. And they're all developed, and it was like a slideshow. He just kept holding the pictures up in front of the camera, and we were laughing. I mean, it was hilarious looking back at some of these pictures. I mean, I look like a different human being.
Well, you put that one picture up. What was that yesterday where you looked like Kid and Play or something? I don't know what was going on with that hair, too.
That was from my freshman year in the dorms where I think we were having a couple of cold ones, and I decided, right, this hairdo needs to change, and we started it, and I said, I don't know that I like the direction this thing's going. I need a beard.
You got bit right in the middle of it. You were screwed if you did and screwed if you don't.
I mean, that thing was an extremely poor look.
will say this: the one thing, and you try to look at silver linings, but again, would you and your buddies have ever done that had we not gotten into this situation in the world, right? I mean, it kind of gave you a moment to get together, do the Zoom call, do the happy hour, say what's up, look at some old pictures. Those kinds of things are good just to catch up with each other and make sure, everybody's healthy and doing well. So there is a silver lining, I think, overall.
It was nice. It was cool. It was fun. I mean, and by the way, it has allowed us to do this segment because now that, nobody's really working hardcore, like you're sitting in your house, you can do a 10-minute segment with us every day. I got somebody texting in now. I miss hearing Todd's voice every day on the airwaves. Well, we're doing it at 5:30. Because we have the time to be able to just kind of have a little fun, kick some stuff back. By the way, what do you think? You see the Little League World Series they canceled. I mean, they decided, right, that August, we're not getting that in.
I mean, to be honest with you, that to me is one of the more devastating things that's happened.
I mean, you're devastated by that.
I mean, when you think of all the sports, and I get it, NBA, Major League Baseball, but I'll tell you, how many of us, and I know your listeners with their kids, their young kids and all, it is something we look forward. It's so much fun to watch those kids play, and it really is a neat experience. And I feel really bad for the kids who had the opportunity that this year would have been their year to have a chance to go to the Little League World Series. I mean, it's just devastating.
I can tell you, when I was 15, which isn't the same as 12, but it's your last year of playing, like, with your buddies and all that stuff, back when, that was something that you actually did. You played for your town. I broke my wrist that summer, and I could not play my 15-year-old year. And that's something that, I remember vividly missing that summer of playing with my friends and stuff. I couldn't imagine being the 12-year-old, and that's like the big year for these kids when they're 12 and they don't get that chance.
Well, and I was going to ask you, too, because I know, and all your listeners know, you do a lot of coaching. What's the scenario with you right now with your kids? I mean, what is the kind of what goes on right now? Is everything in a holding pattern?
Yeah, we have. Now, I got a text today from a parent who sent me that, hey, Little League has an announcement at 3 o'clock. They didn't say what the announcement was, but I could, figure it out for myself. And I said, well, once Little League makes their announcement, I'm sure the other organizations will probably follow suit. While the organization that I'm a part of has not made any announcement yet, I would imagine that it's going to be following shortly. I mean, the problem is, you say, why are you canceling the Little League World Series? It's not until late August. I mean, that thing is like the last week of August, right?
Right.
But how many steps do you have to complete just to get to that point? That starts in like late June, early July.
I was going to say, better than most, even with yours at whatever age you do it for those Little League World Series or whatnot. I remember dealing with you, and you go off the air. You got to go to all these different tournaments, and it just goes from district to state to region to. I mean, there's all kinds of steps.
Right.
And you know more than anybody how long it takes. So they really had to make that call now because just the whole summer is the process to get there.
Absolutely. That's the thing is, people would say, well, that's in August. Why you wait? Why are you doing it now? Because some of the conversation we've been having throughout the course of the day, Todd, is, hey, baseball sounds like they could be back in late June. Maybe July 2nd is a date they're throwing out there. And you're thinking, oh, wow, that's cool. And then, Dr. Fauci was on a podcast with one of the Washington National players, Ryan Zimmerman. And he told him, yeah, I think baseball can be played. It's just going to have to be, very separated and probably with no fans. But little by little, maybe 1,000 fans, then maybe 2,000 fans, and, we expand it. But you're thinking, okay, that seems like July. It feels like some positivity. So why would you cancel something in August? But you got to remember all the steps that you got to take just to get to August, and that's why Little League today made that decision.
Yeah, and look, it goes in suit with everything else, and it's understandable, but it really is a shame. And then on the other spectrum, I think I saw correctly that the NASCAR is going to get back going here in May, I think it is, right?
Now, NASCAR seems like one that wouldn't need it to be. Like, you don't need fans. Like, that's not something that the fans, I hate to say it, but they don't matter in terms of racing. I mean, the fans, you're not getting the adrenaline rush from the fans. You can probably not even see or hear them in that car driving 150, 200 miles an hour. You certainly can't hear them. Right? So not having fans for a NASCAR event isn't changing the dynamics of that sport, whereas not having fans for basketball, I think, is a huge deal.
It's massive, bigger than baseball, and really bigger than football. I mean, I think basketball of all the sports is really the one that it matters more. There's more of a connection with the fan base in a sense of how you're playing, momentum. NBA is so many different runs in the game, and you're just not going to get that kind of feeling of we're going to make a run because our crowd's behind us. Or we need a lift. We're down 10 points. We need the fans to lift us up. You're not going to have that. And, man, that's awfully hard to kind of try and do artificially, right, to get yourself geared up to come back into a game. And, again, it's going to be weird to watch it from home with nobody in the stands anyway, if it does happen. But I'm almost intrigued to want to see it because I do want to see how does it play out. Does every sport feel like you're watching a practice? If I'm watching a baseball game, Gill, from home, and there's not one person in the stands, does that not feel like practice to you? It's just going to feel really, really weird to watch.
Well, I'm watching these pictures from like the South Korea Baseball League and some of these leagues that are kind of slowly getting back, and the pitcher's on the mound with the batter up there, and there's nobody in the stands, and you're thinking, where's the pitcher getting that extra oomph or that adrenaline rush or that, that tense feeling? Like it's just so weird. Like in the basketball, I mean, look at the Sixers. They're 28-2 at home, and they're 10-24 or whatever on the road. I mean, just look at that record right there, and you build up that record at home for a home playoff game thinking, all right, you're not going to beat us in our building, and now there's nobody there.
Yeah, and I will say to you, you're right when I say NBA and the fans are so on top of you, but I will say baseball, when you get to that ninth inning or when you get to the playoffs, the fans have a big impact, right? You get that closer that comes in with the energy, the adrenaline, the fans are going nuts. There's a lot of pressure on the batter, on the pitcher. You're just not going to feel that. You can't make that up. It's like anything. You get on stage. Basically athletes are getting on stage when they go on the field. So it's like being an actor, an actress that's in the play on Broadway. You get up on stage, those nerves you can't replicate. And so I just don't see the nerves. And so we're going to see how do these players play when the nerves aren't as big, because we always say the best players rise at the critical moments. But you may get some players now that rise up because they don't care, because it's kind of like, well, there's nobody here. There's nobody watching me. And like I told you the other day, I want to see this Simmons shooting that ball. And he may do it with nobody in the stands,
You know what? It's funny, too, because now he might have a reason. If they play against Phoenix, that Booker, right, he was seen going out with that Kendall Jenner.
I didn't. You know what's so funny? I was going to text you that last night because I saw that, and I went, wait a minute. Isn't this girl dating Simmons? And then I heard, oh, well, they're not exclusive. They're just having a good time, and they hang out when they see each other. I'm thinking,
well, right. I love the report that said, right, Jenner, who has cheated on Simmons 6 times on different occasions. I said 7 times now. I mean, who's keeping count of this? I mean, does TMZ have those stats? Is that like a baseball card that Jenner's on the front, and then you flip it over on the back, and you read how many times she's cheated on Ben Simmons?
Well, and to their fact,
it's like a transaction report. How many times she's been traded?
That's exactly right. Although they haven't said it's exclusive, so you can't consider it cheating. But I don't know if Simmons is making a run and nobody hears about anything that he's doing on the side. But I mean, that was a hot thing last year, right? I mean, they were pretty much a big item last year.
I guess, yeah. I mean, the whole story was like all over the place around here about him and her, and then she had been with this guy and that guy, and that you need to get away from her because, those that she's been. I mean, how many different NBA guys? How do you just keep picking NBA guys? You think you'd branch off to a different genre?
Well, I mean, the Kardashians as a whole, I don't do a lot of watching of their shows, but I will say I've heard and I've seen they seem to like the athletes, and in particular the basketball athletes. And again, once you're in a circle, maybe it's one of those where you know each other, friends know friends, and you just kind of stay in that genre. It's a good word to use, but it's funny. I never thought that this Jenner, of all the Kardashians and all, I just thought her world was a little different than the others in the family. But
you thought she was a little bit more grounded.
Well, I mean, I want to say that, but she's a supermodel. But she seemed to be the most heady one that actually had a head on her shoulders and things. And again, not to say that these basketball players aren't really good guys, but it is funny that it just kind of filters into that one particular genre that she's in. And, Devin Booker, good kid, good looking kid. I mean, but yeah, it could be interesting. Either they're going to share stories about her when they see each other, or there's going to be a little animosity. We'll see.
Yeah, well, there's been some people, TMZ had kind of suggested that when you look at when him and Jenner are going through up and downs, like that is kind of tied to his play.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we always talk on the phone about these players, and more so in college than the pros. But when we talk about, we just see them, and as fans, we see these players as just kind of little pieces on the TV, right? And he's got to play and he's got to score 30 because that's what he does. Meanwhile, he might have just gotten in a huge fight with his wife. His kid might have gotten sick right before he left for the game. He's got all these things going on in his head. And I just feel like we don't take that into account enough, that they are human beings. They've got lives like us. We have a bad day. We have a good day. We get in a fight with our girlfriend. Guess what? It bothers us for the day, right? We're not as effective at our job. And a lot of times these guys, same thing. I think the younger kids in college is more of an effect on them. But again, that I wouldn't be surprised if there was a trend there, if that's what they've kind of seen with him and his relationship.
All right, Ask Mike and Todd in the books. We got to roll. Tomorrow we'll do it again, get you a little ready for the weekend, even though weekends don't really matter that much anymore. I like my weekend still. I like not having to come here.
Well, I was going to say, and little by little, now the beaches are still locked up there in South Jersey?
The beaches are locked. They're opening up the golf courses on Saturday.
Okay, and but you're not going to make that trip, I don't believe.
Nah, I'll pass on that. I've already seen videos of golf courses open all over the place, and you know what's happening. So many damn people are out there that you're waiting at your tee box, and what ends up happening at the tee box when you're waiting?
Oh.
Right, you got foursomes just waiting around, having a couple cocktails. You're waiting for the four in front of you. You get angered. I mean,
and they're not wearing masks.
Nah, you're not wearing a mask on that golf course. So what do? You end up running into the park, and then there's people drinking over at the park because they can't contain themselves. I mean, it's just, I don't know.
I will say, I'm sick of this mask, but I know we got to do it. But man, you know what I will say? The one last thing on these masks, it's a good thing, I think, because people who have really bad breath, now they're smelling their own breath. And now they realize what all of us are getting. Am I right? I mean, you get these bad breath people and you go, put a piece of gum in your mouth. Well, now they get to smell it themselves. One
positive of this is the people with dragon breath have now had to smell their own breath. All right, we're going out on that one. See ya.
All right, buddy.